My quick question, obviously, it's been great to get to know all of you experts in your capacities. I think as a gay man living in New York City, prior to when all of this legislation will be hopefully passing in both the state and federal level here, how can we protect ourselves with our partners to maintain some of the rights that we're discussing that will not be covered most likely?
New York is that New York does recognize same-sex marriages entered into in other jurisdictions, so long as they're valid in those other jurisdictions. So essentially, marriage in the abstract has been governed by what's known as the place of celebration rule, which is to say that if marriage is valid in the place where it was celebrated, then it is valid in other jurisdictions within the United States. The Defense of Marriage Act in 1996, the legislation I referred to earlier, actually interrupted that and said that states were not required to give full faith and credit to marriages that were valid in the place of celebration. So every state now gets to opt in and opt out. This is why even if you get married in Connecticut, that marriage in Connecticut is not going to be recognized in California. However, New York has, under a judicial decree, stated that it will give full faith and credit to marriages entered in other jurisdictions. And so the quickest way to protect yourself with respect to all the benefits that attend to marriage is to get married in a jurisdiction that permits same-sex marriages. So one of the 6 states that I mentioned earlier, those are Massachusetts, Connecticut, Iowa, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. And then those marriages are portable back into the United States with all of the rights that attend to a marriage.
And if you would get married in like Holland or something?
Yes. Yes, that's also, and so New York follows the place of celebration rule. So if the marriage is valid in the place of celebration, so that would include Holland, that would include Spain, that would include Denmark, that would include foreign countries in which the same-sex marriage right is guaranteed. So this is why you see people going to Canada or going to other places to get married. It's not just a symbolic act, it's also the fact that New York, under this court opinion, which is not, necessarily going to be the law of the land forever, but currently gives recognition according to the place of celebration rule.
I just also wanted to add on that if you are considering or you know someone who is considering, they should check into the stability of the marriages in that state. Obviously, ones like Massachusetts that have been established for many years are more credible or have the least amount of chance of being challenged. So we would also encourage that you look into that if it's something that you need to do as of right now to protect yourself. The other thing is that we want to encourage all New Yorkers to push for us to have the right here and not have to leave, because personally as a native New Yorker who has a partner who's a native New Yorker, there's no reason why we should have to go somewhere else. But if you need to protect yourself, it's definitely something that you should consider.
And at the risk of beating a dead horse and making a distinction over and over again, I want to emphasize the distinction between state marriages and federal marriages, right? So there are certain rights that you can get under Massachusetts law that New York will recognize because you get married in Massachusetts. However, just because you are married in Massachusetts does not mean that you are going to be able to get the rights that attend to a federally recognized marriage. A marriage is not recognized at the federal level. So again, let's say you got married in Massachusetts and you came back to New York, then the usual things that would attend to a marriage, such as, if you die, then, your remains will be released to your spouse, for instance, or you have hospital visitation privileges, or so on and so forth. Those will be accorded to you because those are rights that attend state law. However, if we're talking about a right that attends a federal right that attends marriage, none of those rights are going to be guaranteed to you. So if you got married in Massachusetts, came back to New York, and wanted to sponsor your partner for citizenship in the United States or vice versa, that would not be permissible under the Defense of Marriage Act. And there's a kind of consistency here, sadly enough, insofar as even in Massachusetts that would not be the case either. So there's no state in the country where a marriage that is validly enacted under the state law will give you the federal privileges attendant to marriage. And that is going to be the case until this 1996 law, which is called the Defense of Marriage Act, gets repealed by Congress or struck down by the court.
Yeah, I actually want to add one more thing also, sorry to push this further, but just so that everybody's clear, even if a state does recognize, state tax in New York is regulated by the federal. So any state tax benefits that you would receive for being married are not given to even recognized married couples from the LGBT community. We have a person within our staff, Edie Windsor, who was married to Thea, and she's going through this right now, and she has to pay not only federal tax but state tax on all joint property that they own, and quite possibly will have to lose all of her property in order to pay those taxes through selling it to afford it. So it is a serious issue, and not everything is fixed by getting married outside of state.
Maybe I can add also one small thing, sorry. When I immigrated to the United States, I'm married to my husband in the Netherlands a few years ago. I went to the American consulate, and you have to fill in all kinds of forms. And I was required to fill in it, I was single and I was unmarried. And I said, but this is my husband, he's standing next to me. He said, no, we don't recognize your marriage. And it is very painful. It's very painful to come to this wonderful country without having to deny that you are married and that you have a partner. So hopefully this will end very soon.
Any other questions?
Mine's not quite
We have time for, we have one more, so we go to the last one.
Mine's not quite as serious, so.